When I was 2, I saw Neil Armstrong walking on the moon. I was in Yorkshire in England, and my father took me outside and said, pointed up to the sky and said, Neil Armstrong's walking on the moon. And I saw it on TV. I couldn't understand how he could be on TV and on the moon at the same time. I was always an avid reader as a child. The first book I ever read was The Time Machine by H.G. Wells. I think I was about 7 or 8 when I read that, and I moved on to War of the Worlds. I would build spaceships in my back garden, and I would spend years having adventures flying through space. Someone loaned my mother a 8mm camera, and I took it out and started filming things like helicopters and little movies, little adventures. Then the day came when I saw Star Wars, and to see a movie like that really just opened my eyes to the whole world of movie making. So from that point on, I was always building model spaceships and putting them on camera, even to the point of going to film school. In my younger days, I tried to be a pop star, a heavy metal pop star. I failed. When I was 18, I was, I guess, being groomed to be this television preacher. And I went on television a couple of times and had to argue with Catholic priests about God and stuff.
There is sin in the world, there is evil, but there's also good. There's good and evil, there's always a battle between it.
But it's very difficult for me to believe in a God if my little one's just been run over by a car.
Well, there's a time and place for everything. But
that's not much help to me. I'm crying inside. It's a wrench in my life.
But you could probably learn from this situation.
I failed at that pretty badly as well. I think the only thing left for me was to be a filmmaker. That was it. That's what I am. I always have this thing, it's very hard to get lightning on camera, and so I really felt it was, if we get lightning on camera, it would mean it was a good shoot.
Oh yeah! Got it? Yeah, that was perfect.
I'm only a director at this point, but it looks like I'm taking over as producer. I was one of the producers. These guys are really starting to fuck me over. They're just giving me the runaround at the moment. They're just saying, okay, well, fuck, we'll put the money in the bank, and I go to my account, check it online, there's no money in there. So apparently they've sent the money through, it's disappeared between our bank and their bank.
But the show must go on.
Well, hey, I got people to fly in, we're already here. They don't realise that we're on location, we need money now. Now here we are having our production meeting the first day. We're wondering if this is a bad omen. There's a beautiful dust storm kicking in. As soon as everyone else sort of flew in, I flew them straight out to this little saloon, and that night this terrible storm came in. And
prior to shooting our first real shot of anything, we really needed a costume for Usul. We got the usual thing, army boots, black army fatigues. I found this nice sort of combat jacket, and we just sort of put together a little outfit for Usul.
And here's Blake, dressed up in his black outfit for the first day, and he's got his gun. Wants a couple of photos, so I took a couple of photos at the hotel, and then he decides to go walking around, and, you know, I don't know what he was doing.
There was only 4 or 5 minutes involved with standing out in the car park in the sunlight, getting a few shots.
Suddenly he just races back inside and closes the door, and so what's going on? I peer out the window and there's cop cars turning up.
After the third car arrived, doing a sweep of the car park and banging on doors, we made the connection that perhaps looking like a paramilitary terrorist at a suburban hotel was probably not a good idea.
Every day from that moment on, cop cars were turning up and just watching. I think they were concerned that, terrorism had arrived.
Because I'd worked with Neil as a makeup artist, on so many different jobs, and when he called me and said, look, I've got this film I really want to do, we need to go to America. And I said, yeah, that'd be great, and here I'm thinking makeup process the whole time. And he said, well, no, I actually want you as the lead. And I thought, I've only ever worked with him as a makeup artist, so it was a bizarre process to find out that I was actually acting in this thing. I mean, he'd only seen a showreel of mine, and we were mucking around one day on set, and he put me in front of the camera, and obviously he liked the look, and then next thing you know, I'm in America shooting a feature film. It's very bizarre.
I've been developing this character, and suddenly saw the character in her, and just the way she looked, and it was really wow. That's the sort of look I had in mind exactly, and she was perfect for the role. And I think the first day I saw her on set in her outfit and costume, and it's like, yeah, I was right. Thank God I trusted my instincts on this, because she was it. I guess the big problem was, there's this cloud hanging over the whole production, in the sense that originally we had quite a big budget. We had a $3 million budget. And then these Canadian producers who'd come on board decided they needed to have a big fee, and so they took maybe $1.5 million out of it as their fee, leaving us $1.5 million to make the film. Okay, well, we can still do the film on $1.5 million. Then they came on board and started saying, okay, we've got special conditions about this, this, and this. We want, one guy wanted his cousin in the film in a certain role, it started getting a bit silly. I said, well, have they acted before?
Neil was waiting on some funding, which he'd been arguing about on the phone for quite some time with the finances. He'd been paying for everything out of his own pocket, and basically we were living on a budget. I mean, the food for the day was like a 79-cent taco for morning, lunch and dinner.
So are you... Right, yeah. So you want another $100,000 for that? So you're going to take more money for the budget? No, hang on. We're already under our budget, It's already going to cost us more than what money you're giving us. So you want to take another $100,000 out of that. The hardest thing was the responsibility. I take my responsibilities very seriously, and I was stuck in a foreign country. Well, it's not really foreign to me, but it was still a place you're out of your own world. And I had to basically financially care for these other crew people. And that was hard, because I was playing the parent role. And when you're playing a parent role, it's very hard to sort of get into that creative mode and be a friend to these people, because they're all my friends, very close, dear friends. But suddenly I was separate from them. And in a way that was pretty heartbreaking, because these were, people I'd known and loved for many years. But I had this position of, God, if I'm not tight with my money, if I'm not careful with how I spend the money, I could leave these people stranded here without any food or any way of getting home. So I had to take on a totally different role, and that was painful for me, because I was isolated completely. I had no one really I could confide in. I was, I had this whole movie, I had everything on my back.
Now, as each day progressed, the production budgets sort of spiraled out of control. One costly little exercise was the day the production vehicle got bogged in the sand.
Blake was up one side of this sand dune pitching a tent for us all, because we were shooting there later and we needed cold sand, because I was going to be buried in it and I just wasn't going to roast in this sand. So we set up the shade and he was doing that, and we were down filming at another place.
So, middle of filming, I just couldn't concentrate. I said, look, girls, I've just got to go up and see if Blake's okay. So,
one might think we're going to bury someone. One would be right.
So I jumped in the truck and drove up. He was fine, decided to reverse out. As I was reversing out, part of the, we had like a little road, little sort of half road thing that was, help us get through the sand dunes. Part of the road actually crumbled away just as I was reversing, and we went off the edge, and the whole Side of the truck just went boom.
Tess and I sort of waiting down the other location, just, you know, waiting, and then we see all this sand flying out of the back of the wheels.
Within a few moments we were hopelessly bogged. I mean, one wheel was totally off the ground, another wheel was up to the rim in sand, and we were just stuck there. There was pretty much nothing that could have been done.
I ran onto the highway, found a highway patrol car, and asked him very nicely if he could assist us.
And this was a day that was sort of under pressure with the light and getting everything done, and so of course the car being bogged for 2 hours didn't help.
That didn't stop us. Production continued at a breakneck pace. Shots were still getting done. Basically, I was left up there to salvage the situation, and we got a call through to a local towing firm who had trouble themselves getting up the ridge. And here comes our rescue, and the rescue man is bogged. And the tow truck goes for its third run up. He's gonna make it this time. Here he comes.
We've done 2 scenes, we've got 6 to go, and the car's been bogged up the top of the hill. See the tow truck? We had to get the cops out who radioed in and got us a tow truck and blew half of our budget. So, oh look, we've got somebody else coming up here now. Now see, that's what we should have had in our budget to get.
A few $100s just to tow us out of the sand. And he said, oh, what are you doing here? I said, oh, we're shooting a movie. He said, oh, wow, can I be in the movie? I said, yeah, it'll cost you $500. At that point, I rang a real estate agent friend of mine in Australia and said to them, I think I need to sell my house. I've got 2 houses. I need to sell one of them very quickly. And I need money urgently. Thankfully, this wonderful real estate agent jumped on board and within a couple of weeks sold the house because the market in Australia was very good at the time. Oh, we're 3 days into shooting. 3 days. We've already been shooting 3 days. Yeah, I told you that. Look, I told you that 3 days ago. Okay. Well, everything is now coming out of my pocket. Just turn the camera off. Just tell him to get his fucking ass out of here, right? No, it's bullshit. Well, 1 minute we got $3 million, next minute we got $1.8 million, then I'm asking for $300,000 and you're telling me some bullshit about the stock market? You don't have your money in stock, so what are you complaining about? Well, they're gutless little assholes, okay? Tell them to get his shit together now. Put the camera off. Tell them to get his shit together now. Sorry about that, girls.
You alright?
Yep. Just telling you where to go. Yeah, just... Oh, you're still rolling? Can you, I think we should just put the camera for a while, okay? Just... Off. Okay, take aim. Pull the thing out. That's it. Now careful, really careful. Recoil. Okay, get it working. It's not working. Fight the gun. Get frustrated with the fucking thing. Bang it. That's it. Okay, hold it. Now careful aim.
When we first got to the desert, I mean, we'd been in winter in Australia, and I knew that it was going to be hot. We're going to be in the desert, but I don't think anything could have prepared me for the heat wave that came at us as soon as we got off the plane. There was one day I particularly remember that I had to run up and down these sand dunes and run past camera, and I think it was the 3rd take on this, and I'd gone straight past camera, and all of a sudden I just lost my hearing. I was just about to pass out. I thought, I'm going to die. This is the day I'm dying. I had no idea that it could actually be so hot. It was just unbelievable.
Blowing a gale out here. We can hardly talk above all the wind noise. I've ordered all the crew to wear face masks. I'm going to dare it without a face mask because I'm a real man.
There was a particular time in the desert when we were filming, and it was at the end of the day. I think it was about the 3rd or 4th day in the desert, and it was really, really hot, and I was really exhausted. The wig was getting to me. It was all, very difficult. And we were going through, and I was just asked to run up and down these hills and, back and forth. And of course, you need virgin sand for every new shot, so I'd have to move over and run a mile and run back over these hills. And there was at one point when I was feeling really unwell, like ready to pass out. Neil had started yelling at me, get back on, we're losing light, we're losing light. And it was a lot of pressure, and it was very intense for me. And I think, I know the reason that he pushes so much is to get the ultimate picture. But for me, that was probably one of the hardest days.
After enduring the desert, and I was very scared that the whole crew would rebel against me. I thought, well, we've got to make this a little easier from here on in. And I thought, well, okay, let's go up to Lake Powell, which is up in the north. And if you don't know, that's where they shot Planet of the Apes, the old and the new.
Okay, we just spent a few hours in the water, spent 3 days in the desert, as hot as you like, and now I'm cold. Look at my fingers, they're blue.
Hey, try and come to shore now. Try and get to shore.
Just lost my gun.
All right. Okay.
This was not in the brochure.
Lost that gun.
We lost our
I
gun.
thought with the serpent was quite rough.
We lost our arm wrist thingy.
Lost our little doot.
Which we will get another one.
One of the other hiccups at Lake Powell was that although we'd have procured a permit for shooting in the state of Arizona, unwittingly when we were in Lake Powell, we'd actually crossed the border of Arizona and Utah, and we were now shooting in a totally different state, unbeknownst to us.
Next thing you know, a park ranger pulls up and starts having a go at Neil about, permits and all the rest of it.
And he said, sort of clenching his gun on the side of his body. I don't know why they arm these park rangers, but this guy was armed. And he said, look, he's quite angry, you're not supposed to be here, blah, 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 where's your permit? And I said, well, sir, I've got a permit, and showed him what I had, but it was not the right permit for the right spot.
And this park ranger was pretty cross, and I think he was just about to cut Neil away.
Eve came on board and just thankfully realised what was going on, just fluttered her eyelids and said, oh, we didn't realise you needed a permit, we're from Australia. And she managed, I think once he, he saw her and she, spoke to a pretty girl for a bit, he calmed down and he was very helpful. And
so we nearly lost our director that day.
The shot called for a few pebbles to roll down a hill, and then perhaps a few larger pebbles, culminating in a boulder slide of epic proportions. So as the trusty production assistant, special effects and physical kinetic effects expert, I was called upon to scale up the side of a hill in full Usul costume, having just finished a shot in the area, and proceeded to initiate a rock slide. Oops. I think it really sort of got out of hand, because halfway up the hill, when I pushed off, the rocks, off they went, they started sliding away, and then they knocked other ones, and then momentum. And basically half the side of the mountain started coming down. Now at this point I was halfway up the said mountain, and as I was climbing up and looking behind me, the rocks falling away, the momentum of them falling away was actually catching up to my altitude on the mountain, so I had to keep going higher. And as I went higher, the rocks below me just kept falling and falling and falling.
yeah, it was quite huge, and there's this incredible echo that just went on for miles. This big giant dust cloud, and I thought, oh my God, I really hope the owners of the quarry don't hear this. But I thought, right at that moment when I started filming, I kid you not, the camera stopped just as the landslide had started falling. So I was like, shit, Blake, we need to do this again.
As the end of the trip loomed closer and closer, we found ourselves in LA. Again, shooting without a permit.
And of course, that's where we're parked.
I think we did some exterior shots and bits and pieces. And then I realised I had no money.
Pretty much everything fell apart in LA.
So the budget's gone from $3 million to $1.8 million down to $1.2 million. And out of that $1.2 million, I'm left with, yeah. Well, I paid for everything myself. Yeah, we kept shooting. No, fuck it. You'll have to pay me back. Yeah, well, you know, you guys come with the money, it's your film. I've had to sell the house. You know, I wanted to keep that, you know, I thought that'd be nice things. That was my retirement fund. I've sold my retirement fund for this, all right? I mean, I know you've got three or four houses, I know you've got a fucking million retirement funds and your kids' college funds and blah, blah, blah. Meanwhile, I'm sort of stuck without the money. Yeah, this is all I've got. I'm not rich like you know? I'm the struggling filmmaker here. And I'm paying it out of my own pocket. And you guys want to own the thing at the end of this when you haven't paid me any money. No. It doesn't work that way. You don't pay me when the film's finished, you pay me when the film started. Yeah, exactly, because you're the ones who are paying, you're the guys who own the film. I'm just making it for you, you know? It's bullshit. If not, I'm going to own the film, I'll make the money.
The money was not forthcoming. Basically, we'd been told that funding for the picture had fell through, some lame excuse about recapitalising in some other area. It was that point that Neil lost it.
No. I've decided not to take your money. No. I know you want to put it today, right? Okay. Well, it's too late. No, you fucked off. You fucked me over. I'm sorry. It's too late. I'm paying for this myself. I've sold everything. I don't care. Hey, you want to try and sue me? You can, but guess who owns the rights to the film? I own the rights to the story. Well, you fucked up. I'm sorry, you fucked up. I told you should got to pay the money. Yeah, well, why didn't you pay the money when we started shooting, dick? Oh, hey, it's my film now. You know, you can sit there and write your check. I won't cash it. No problem. See ya. In a way, it was a lot easier to do the movie back in Australia because suddenly we were surrounded by a whole infrastructure of crew and people and good experienced people who I'd worked with before who knew what they were doing. In America, it was just like a skeleton crew and, you know, fighting the forces of nature every day. I managed to track down a DP I'd worked with in the past called Dan MacArthur, who has won every award there is, done everything there is, still got a good energy and a good creativity happening. And his shooting style is similar to my own, his lighting style is similar to my own, so he could just slot in and, you know, take over the DP roles, which was really a blessing for me.
You want to go, obviously, full body filming, like that.
It's good to have Jim Lagerstead back on board again. He'd been working on my second film, so he knew all the trials and tribulations we'd been through on all the movies, and it was good to have, you know, him come on board.
Yeah, I was actually promoted. I was promoted to production manager, which was again a very interesting experience for me.
These are the problems. Find a solution for me, and he just sewed it up for me perfectly.
The blue screen days were interesting because we had none of that on the previous production to become one. So it was a new experience for me and many in the crew. It's very different from shooting on a location because you really have to try to visualize what's around you and behind you and all that. And obviously, at some point, the only person that can do that is Neil. For everyone else, it's people standing in front of a blue wall.
Yeah, but it's nicer to be home shooting this because in the desert it was pretty hot. At least we can control the environment a little bit better here and keep our cool, as it were.
It was so intense what they were doing, what the actors were doing, that you actually somehow, that blue screen disappeared and you actually saw something else in front of you when you were watching them, especially watching through the monitor. You actually saw some kind of context, and it wasn't just people in front of a blue screen anymore. There was actually something happening in front of you, and that, to me, really, that's where the acting and directing came through.
You look to me. Remember that line we practiced? When are you coming home? Okay, that's all we got to do.
It was a good day. My own daughter did a cameo in the film. Again, she was also in my second film. And she did a remarkable job. I mean, I know she's my daughter, but she did it perfectly and I was amazed. Not amazed, I'm not surprised, but I was pleased to think that she did me proud. She was good in the role, and not just because she was the director's daughter, but because she was right for the role as well.
When are you coming home, Mama?
Neil had basically gotten some funding together, and we went to possibly the most expensive location of the shoot, a full-size battleship berthed in a dry dock harbour in the Maritime Museum.
It was costing me $800 per hour for this place. So every time something went wrong, in the back of my mind it's like, shit, there's another, few dollars out of my pocket, or, there's another meal I won't have.
I'm on, please. I'm on, please.
One of my favourites, I think, for pure joy and entertainment would have to be when Mara and my character had to pass each other in a very tight, confined space, and I had to deliver a line to her and be all terribly serious. And Eve, the lead actress, and I know each other offset. So we were all good, we're very professional people, and you get into the moment and, you live truthfully, and she keep it real, and she stood in front of me, and the next thing you know, we were just snorting and laughing like 15-year-olds at our first disco.
Colonel. Not too far. Colonel. 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 Admiral. We've received some disturbing information that may explain the last ambush. I'd like to see them.
It was just appalling, and it just went on and on and on.
Guys,
that's not working for you, is it?
And it went on and on and on, and then we eventually got the magic, and he was happy.
action.
We were in the bowels of this ship in the engine room, and we had our DOP, our sound guy, lighting. We had Blake and I filming in this, plus our director, and it was so small and cramped. And there is this little claustrophobic issue that I have, and it was really hot. We were in our full black outfits. The lights were on us. That was a very intense day.
Although we were paying $800 an hour to be there, this museum was still open to the public. So there we were down in these cramped conditions in this engine room shooting the escape pod scenes when tourists up 3 or 4 decks above were in the control room pulling levers and ringing bells. I remember that every 5 minutes it seemed that this massive clanging was ringing through the bowels of the ship as some little kid be up top in the control room pulling a lever.
Here, are we? Hello, Dan, can you hear me? We've lost our DP. Hello, Dan. There's another one here. Hello, can anyone see Dan? Is he around?
Calling Dan, can you hear me? Mr. Dan, are you around? Please come. Where the fuck are we?
Captains.
We're on board the. Oh.
Please come to the steering wheel room.
Turbine thrusters. Battle stations. We're being pulled out. Prepare for emergency reentry. Reverting to normal space. Scan the area. Reverting to normal space. Scan the area.
I guess the interesting thing about my life is that my father was always a sea captain, and I spent many of my childhood days aboard a large ship, something like this one here.
And it was such groups like this that inspired me to really show the inside of spaceships as being much more realistic and technical. I'm not really into the concept of spaceships being full of bright, shiny things. I think real spaceships in outer space would have much more machinery like this.
I guess there's always a sense of danger when you're on board a ship because there's no sense of being able to call upon your allies or anyone to help you if you get in trouble. You're really on your own, and it can be a very lonely place. So like in outer space, you're just looking out into the expanse of nothing all the time. Outer space now is the ocean of yesterday. There's that sense of discovery, the sense of meeting new people and, you know, possibly being attacked by them and killed by them. At any second, you know, a storm could come up. You can be invaded by pirates, which does happen a lot, especially aboard a ship like this.
In case you see any small boats coming alongside, because there's a fair bit of money on here. This is just as a warning in case they come too close and in case their intentions are not legal. If they come on board despite that, which they will find very difficult anyway, then other action might be taken. And if you read the books on the pirate attacks, there are more pirate attacks occur in these waters around here, around Singapore Strait, Malacca Straits, around Indonesia, than any other part of the world. Powerful, you see. They came alongside the ferry while it was in position and tried to get on board, but they couldn't. We're a casino ship, and people assume that we have plenty of money on board. However, being a high-sided passenger ship, it's very difficult for any pirates to get on board. Problem solved. Yeah, no worries. Everything fixed now. They go to prison, maybe, or maybe it's execution. I don't know. Who knows what the penalty for piracy is around here?
There was 4 water spouts came up before, all around the ship. Must be a sign.
Gold Coast, local area, and we're seeing Neil's passion for filmmaking in progress here today as he throws himself into the role of director, producer, writer, main antagonizer of the project.
You need to hold it somewhere when you shoot, you know?
Yeah, underneath's better.
Underneath.
You can't really rely on that not to break off, so see how it's okay. So don't actually think that that's an actual handle.
It just vibrates like this. Or whatever, but you know, yeah, true.
I have to say that the whole time that we were travelling around America with all these different, like, completely adverse conditions, like the deranged cultists chasing us, the police thinking we were terrorists, the sandstorms, the extreme heat, everything that went on over there. He was the coolest cucumber. He kept everybody really calm, and I think because he is so in love with what he does that it just keeps everybody energized all the time and keeps everybody loving what they're doing. And I've got to say I really appreciated that about him. There will be contact, but I promise.
Yeah, did you want to kind of
I mean,
put it
I was
away or
gonna
just
get
basically stand?
She just stands here, and what are you going to do? Lift your arm up.
Some of the gun on, yeah?
And go like this.
Whack it.
It's in slow-mo though. Okay. In slow-mo. Okay, so just lift that up. Slow, that's it. Bang. 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 And then swing your arm back. And then she thinks, oh, fuck this. Oh, this is when you go find some dirt.
Well, see, wouldn't he have hit me on the first hit? There's no need to carry this out. Boom, I'm like, that's gotta hurt. So I'm down on the ground.
He's missed you on the first hit.
Whack with some dirt and off I run.
Well, he misses you on the first hit. Okay.
Oh, I see.
But he gets you on the recoil. So basically, you just sweep the arm across. She ducks.
Oh, I see.
And then up.
Whack.
Yeah, whack, whack. And then what does he do? In slow-mo.
When you see the finished product, you can't believe it when you've seen how it's actually been made. And that, I really enjoy that process of seeing how it's being made and then seeing the finished product, because there is such a big step from the raw, seeing it live happening in front of you and actually seeing the finished product. It amazes me, and every time I see it, it amazes me.
So, needing a location for the missile base, we proceeded to take over an entire brewery with all its piping and appropriate looking scenery.
I wanted the sort of industrial feel to the film, to the city. I didn't want it to look like a regular city. I wanted it to look like something more mechanical. There's a lot of red tape we had to go through to get to film there because these people are very safety conscious and everything else, and so they were kind enough to give us permission to film, in their brewery. So we all had to wear a funny little yellow vest. It looked incredible. The lighting that Dan came up with and the shots were just amazing. And yeah, we had to put effects on later to enhance it, but it was an amazing place.
As we got to some of the last shots at the brewery, it was a pretty grueling day, and the last shot we were getting in the can before we lost light was very crucial that we got that shot because we weren't able to really come back and pick that up. And this was Usul's death scene, Mara's confrontation, basically a pretty heavy sort of emotional shot, but physically very taxing as well. And just before the final take, I think just on the final rehearsal, Eve managed to quite seriously pull a ligament or sprain her leg quite badly, to the point where she really wasn't able to walk for long.
Throughout America, I was always aware of injuring myself because we're in such an isolated location, and considering all the action that Mara had to go through, I really reserved energies and was always cautious of where I was going. And I ended up, running up cliffs, jumping off cliffs, diving into the ocean, being buried in sand. I was covered in bruises, and one particular time from my a belt, my gun belt that I wore, I was getting bruises from my gun hitting it, and all sorts of things went on. And then we get back to Australia and I'm running along a tarmac and I actually injure my leg. It was the weirdest thing. There was so no danger.
She couldn't even walk, the poor girl, so we had to sit down and let her rest, and we got a cold pack for her leg, and the insurance companies, I'm sure, were having a field day at this point, going, oh God.
I've got what I need, So we're going to do that, and then we can have a breather, and we can do the close-ups while you're in pain.
You're not the most compassionate person I know, you, Neil.
There's not one compassionate bone in his body. You could be cut in half and he'd go, get up. We're losing light.
We still needed to get the shot in the can as the sunlight was fading, so we hastily added into the film the fact that I had winged her with a shot to her leg, and that the limp that she has in the end of the film is actually quite real, and she's in quite a lot of pain.
As happened all the way through the film was we had this thing, if something bad happened or something happened, it was meant to be. There was a scene in Lake Powell where Mara lost her gun in the water, and so we couldn't find this gun at all. So we ended up saying, okay, well, let's make it that she did lose a gun in the water, and you know, she goes to pull a gun and it's gone, which created problems later in the script. But you know, we sorted those out. And so with this one, we decided, well, I think it was Eve's suggestion, let's make it that, you know, Mara gets shot in the leg and cannot run off to the spaceship. She has to limp. And I said, yeah, that'll work really well. In fact, it really helped because then she has to kill Usul in the scene, so to give her a good reason to kill him. Mara was sitting inside a Nazi bomber, which, you know, had been put into this museum, and of course we're going to mat it up and it's all going to look different at the end of the day. We just wanted to use the cockpit part.
Watching the missile, suddenly it accelerates, you get pissed off.
They had military tanks, and I love military hardware like tanks and planes. It looks cool, and if you're a kid, it's great things. You know, it's great fun to play in. So we were just playing for real. I mean, wouldn't you just like to have your own tank and get inside and have it turn it into a spaceship and fly through space and, you know, do all this stuff inside and put weird lights in? And that's kind of what we did. We got a special camera to film inside the tank, and yeah, we made this sort of spaceship out of it. It was just so cool. They're good times. These are good times to have, because it's not every day you can try and, you know, do the inside of a spaceship and fly through and have adventures in space and shoot up, you know, other enemy vessels, and you can't do this in normal life. So it's just cool to be able to just jump on board and recreate some new reality. So yeah, it was a fun day at the War Museum. I had a blast. So I've caught a very quick flight over to Germany because I've been ringing the effects company for the last few days and no one's been answering the phones. They've not been answering their emails. I've managed to make contact with the receptionist and she's told me things are not good. They've officially closed their doors, and come Monday, everything they own is going to be seized, including all the tape stock, all the footage, basically all of my effects footage from the film is also going to be seized.
We're about to do something illegal, and I have no qualms doing this because something of mine is inside this building. I'm going to find a way in right now to try and get it. It's a little bit quieter now, so I'm going to try and sneak in and just hope no alarms go off. Everything's off. The power's still running, but I don't want to turn any lights on, just in case. This is where we used to do all the effects. It's where they do a lot of the sound. I'm not going to steal anything that's not mine, you know, it's just really trying to get the stuff that belongs to me. Can't see any tapes here, I have to go through to the back room. Those lights are still on, so I wonder if anyone's around. In one of these cabinets, I'm hoping the footage will be in here. So remember one of these sort of cabinets? No. It's going to take me a while to find what I need. I hope these people have been really good with their filing. Okay. This is interesting. A lot of this is empty. Johnson Space Center. Failure is not an option. That's kind of my motto right now. I don't want to fail. There's a lot of money tied up in this place. Second time I've done that. Guess I've got to stop playing with this camera. Shit. I managed to find most of our footage. We've got a hard drive here. Jedi's one of ours. And
got some of the runoff from the master tapes. So I think it's been pretty successful. I hope we got everything that we need. Thankfully there's no police. Been alerted to our presence. A couple of passers by, but just be casual for a second. But yeah, I think we got what we need. So we're going to try and get out of here before anyone sort of gets suspicious of what we're doing. He's decided to do a bit of a runner, and we're chasing him through the streets of Germany, and it's he's already sort of broken a few rules, sort of weaving in and out of the traffic. Nearly had a car accident a couple of times, and he's basically just got in his car and started driving off, and we're trying to catch up with him because he's got a Mercedes and he's been weaving in and out of the traffic a lot, and it's kind of hard to keep up with him on these little country German roads. We got caught behind a couple of vehicles, and he's basically gone, but I think we know where he's headed, so we're going to try and we're taking a guess as to where he's gone. Klaus, ich muss meinen Computerfile fertig machen.
Okay,
ja?
No, camera, no.
Yeah. I guess with all the money problems, you know, the effects company going broke and everything else, I was left with very little money to actually do the effects for the film. So I realized, okay, I'll learn how to do it myself, and I'll buy the equipment myself, and, you know, put a few staff on to help me run this. And it basically came down to Neil Johnson sitting in a room for 2 years and just doing the effects, which is not fun. But I had a great time. That's the cool thing about it. And I was able to hide in Australia at the time because I guess that was the cheapest country I could find to live in for that 2 years. I would have to haul myself occasionally doing music videos, which is not a bad thing, give me a bit of a break, but pretty much did the effects myself, which is nice because you don't have to sit there and you know, go through like, you know, 10 pieces of revision. If you want to change something, you just do it. You don't even have to talk to someone. You make the change yourself, and you want to keep polishing, you keep polishing. It liberated me in a certain way. I was freed up financially to just do the effects as well as I could. I mean, of course, I'm nothing like Industrial Light and Magic. I'm just one man with a bunch of computers, but it was still nice that I could artistically try and explore this, and this was pretty special. There's one effect that I'm really proud of. Okay, in a lot of movies you see these shots where they zoom down from the planet to the person standing on the street. That's kind of a cool thing, but I mean, we see this all the time, and I was sitting there, I mean, I look at the stuff and I know they cheat. It's obvious. I mean, you have to cheat because it's such a hard thing to do. I sat down for a year in between doing the other effects, and I worked out the mathematics of actually doing a real resolution zoom in 3D. And it was mathematically, it was kind of complex because I guess I had to guess and fill in the gaps. I had to try and make a perfect parabolic curve. So, you know, we start off slow, we speed up, and then we slow down. And the reality of this shot is, it took me a year to do the mathematics, and I think then 3 days to actually render the effect. But it's actually a real resolution zoom. It's exactly how the shot would be if you really were flying out into space. And I think the first version went for like 4 minutes. That was a little too much. I had to speed it up a bit. But that's pretty much how it would look. If you really were flying all the way up there, there's no tricks, there's no cuts or magic stuff where you sort of have to blur stuff out and go through clouds. That's exactly how it looks. And the thing I like about this shot as well is as you're zooming out, you can actually see the places she's been. You can see the snowy mountains where she passed over before they crashed. You can see the desert area. And you can see just up ahead that she's going to come to some water. And even further south of that is the start of the city. And so it's interesting when you actually, you know, I've placed all this stuff in there sort of mathematically to make it look exactly like, you know, it really would happen. And that's the sort of attention to detail you can do yourself because, I mean, hey, you're not paying the bills of anyone, you know, sitting there for like a year working out the mathematics. You do it yourself in your spare time. Here we are in Germany. It's getting very cold here. We're going to court now to try and get some of the money back. The people who's ripped us off, we managed to track them down, and we got legal proceedings happening. It's going to be a bit hard because I can't really speak much German, so I'm going to have a translator working with me all day. Unfortunately, they won't let any cameras into the courthouse, so I'll have to report how things go in the next couple of days once I get out. It's going to be a very tense time. It's costing me probably 25 grand in legal fees just to do all this, so I hope I get more than 25 grand out of it.
We've just found out why it's getting so dark around here at 12 o'clock in the middle of the day. It turns out there's a partial eclipse happening, and if that's not a sign of what's about to happen, I don't know what is. So let's go inside and see what happens. It's actually real now. It's 7 o'clock at night. We just got out of the courthouse. Fortunately, I parked the car in the wrong spot, so it's been towed away. I managed to hitch a ride with the lovely lady who works in the courthouse. She's given me a lift back to the hotel. Everything went well. They offered us $50,000, and that was basically all they could come up with.
We're doing extra scenes, obviously, that weren't in the
other
original.
film. I decided to add these scenes in because I was not happy with the way the film has had a nice happy ending. It's too nice.
Too nice? Don't you want to leave the audience with a warm, fuzzy feeling?
Oh, they'll be left warm and fuzzy, but they'll also be left mind expanded. And I don't
need to think about it?
Yeah, they need to think more about what's going on in the universe.
Are you introducing new characters as well?
I am, total new characters.
Jesus.
It's a whole new film, whole new scene, whole new sequence. It relates to the other scenes, but it's also a standout moment. Well, it's all about downloadable memories. People can actually download their memories, and then in 1,000 years' time, you can actually relive the memories of all of our ancestors, if you wanted, or people who lived 1,000 years ago, because that's just technology. And so it's really taking upon that concept of what happened if you're stuck in reliving those memories for about 6,000 years, and this process will start to break down. And why would you do that?
Well, you've got three looks. You've got the astronaut look.
Yeah.
The Matrix Black Warrior knifey Usul look, or you've got the ragtag armour bits.
I think let's try the ragtag armour first.
Alright, come with me.
I was in Neil's last one to become one. That was good fun. Low budget, very intimate, very fun. Did I borrow your hand for a second? Just corner of the. That's it. Thanks.
It's a bit like the other one. It's too much.
And that was just stupid.
Yeah, Neil was silly.
Really? Well, I think this is cool, personally.
You wear it.
I will for the rest of the shoot. I'm not taking it off.
That's gonna hurt. It goes with that.
Matches. You just can't do it. The problem is when you get your gun shot out of your hand, it's just not going to move, is it?
Shoot the arm off.
When you turn around, there ain't a lot here, but do we have anything?
Yeah. We didn't bring any. We've used everything.
We have used everything.
That's why I reckon he needs a cape.
He does.
Cool.
Spencer wears a lot of capes. I've seen him walking on the streets. He wears a cape a lot.
I'm a big cape man.
Very superhero.
Yeah, well, he's a super.
But it's kind of cool because if we work with the character in the sense that you're.
Is that better, Miss Mara?
You have this concept that you're kind of like, I'm super cool. I was just very, very scared that the film would turn into something that resembles The Matrix or anything else, and I'm just not into that type of movie. And the ship shoots away from the proton storm. 3 balls of light follow the ship. Cut back inside, and she says status.
Status?
So come in. I'm a level 5.
Level 5.
Lowering the gun.
Yes. Like now you're getting a bit romantic with the girls.
Say 5 like it's
Level
the best number
5.
you can think of.
It's like a turbo. Because all the girls want to fuck you when you say level 5. I'm level 5. Oh my god. I want that.
How enhanced are you?
I am a level 5 combat drone.
Look, that got me going. Neutralise weapons, mark.
That's when we our guns.
I want us to flow a little bit more. I'm a level 5 combat drone. Like that. You know what I'm saying? I'm a level 5 combat
That was so scary.
On the cheek. It's on the cheek. First date, it's on the cheek.
He comes in with his hands, maybe to go for a throw. Grab his hands. Turn over and grab him. Sort of like.
What do you mean?
Well, yeah. And then, like, kind of you're holding him down and set him up for it. Don't just go, cool.
And show complete control.
Yeah, so he comes in for that, grab him, and then once you've got his hands, go, right, so you want it, and bring him down into it.
I cast
Just to, so it's not so quick.
Yeah.
Not only hold him, but kind of, he's struggling and you're like, he's like, and you're like, bringing him down.
out. And action. And then you tension your leg, Eve.
Intruder alert. Who are you?
Are you addressing me?
What are you?
We were the Watchers.
The Watchers?
Obviously through the film many times we had budget problems, which forced me obviously to replace one of the name actors in the film. But by the time we got to post-production, I was able to actually afford a couple of decent name actors. One of the actors was Ivor Franks, who's done a lot of different really cool TV shows and movies, and she was able to come in and provide the voice of the Watcher.
We have hope. You must have the same.
It's kind of a crazy thing for me to do. I mean, here's one of the most attractive women in Hollywood, and I'm the guy who comes along and gives her a voice role. So it's what we needed for the character of the Watcher. Needed a bit of authority, obviously a feminine touch, but you know, just something that was, I guess, unique and had something special about it. And she came in. We went to a little studio and recorded a voiceover. Did an amazing job.
I'm Ivor Franks. I was the disembodied human, the Watcher. From an acting point of view, I thought that because she was a disembodied human and she was more superior intellectually, and the other characters that she was speaking to, she kind of was looking down on them because they didn't understand the way of the universe and how things worked and what was supposed to happen. So I approached her as more of a superior being.
I have the stored memories of 1,000 years of human existence. I will not sacrifice it.
Ivor, that's such a limited perspective.
Well, I think that honestly, people's memories are kind of geared towards what they want them to be. Because if you have two people who have the same story, the same experience, the memory of the story is going to be different. I don't think you could get an honest memory off a microchip. I don't even know if you could actually take a memory. If you could gain wisdom if the person was an honest person and they were honest with themselves. And you can always gain wisdom from your elders.
Ivor, will I remember who I am? Will we be together? If you survive, remember me.
When I was a kid, I used to love a British sci-fi series called Blake 7, and I needed a voice for the computer, but someone again who had an interesting texture to his voice. So Paul Darrow came on board and was kind enough to loan his voice talents. He's known as the character Avon in Blake 7. He's done lots of other, great British shows, and he's been on television, on stage and cinema, and I would think I was a little nervous when I got to meet him, but it was kind of cool. I mean, I worked with a lot of famous people, but meeting Paul Darrow was kind of different for me because, this is one of your childhood heroes, and it's kind of cool.
Well, I think the scale of the visuals needed something to complement it. It really needed a pumping orchestral score. Originally, we discussed something which is quite minimalistic, like lots of ominous drones, and they're still in the score, and that's the beauty of the score. It has its complexity versus simplicity. Maybe Neil didn't know, but I always had a big vision for the score, no matter what, whether it was going to suit or not. It was going to be a big score. That was simple. It changed in some ways. To tell you the truth, I probably cut back in certain ways, because for instance, when Mara's travelling through the desert, you needed to follow her solitude and needed to get into the character's head, as opposed to for the underscore, you definitely don't need anything complex and thrashing around. That's simple. I had trouble distinguishing the boundaries between when music stops being music and it's actually sound design. So a scene needs something, but is it going to be the drones that we'd discussed in the brief, or Are they going to be musical, or are they going to be done in the sound design? And more often than not, I kept the music going, which, right or wrong, whether they in the final product, sometimes it's cross-faded out, what have you, but it's a tough call working the boundaries. But yes, I did a tiny bit of sound design to that extent. Neil's highly creative, but he doesn't want to thwart the process by trying to impose certain rules and rigid structures. He allows the creative process to be free. Normally, the directors I've worked with are pretty level at exactly what they want, and they're brutal about it. And even if you believe they're right or wrong, you just do what you're told, basically, and that's not an enjoyable way to work. That was the beauty of working with Neil. I had quite a fair input musically, what was going on. If ever I was confused as to the direction of a certain scene or what was going on, Neil's standard response would be, well, think horror. I just go, well, what? Hang on, it's not really a horror film, but so there are some dark elements to it, like especially a scene when Mara is in the desert and it's the night scene, and it's like a nightmare, basically. And there's lots of visions flashing past, and that's probably the darkest point, I think, within the score.
I was always very scared with the soundtrack because I always felt that maybe there would be some, I would not get exactly what I wanted. But this is one of the few times I can honestly say that the soundtrack surpasses what I had in my mind. And I've worked with Owen now for 18 months, which really is, I guess, a good test of character. And there's not a second that I'm not in awe of what he does. And every time I hear the music, I'm still filled with the emotion today. I think it's the best part of my film, and I have no qualms in saying that, because I enjoy listening to that music soundtrack all the time, even 18 months later. So that's the true test, and if I had my time over again, I'd be choosing the same man right here.
It's now October 2005, and I've just finished doing the sound mix tonight, and by coincidence, we have an incredible lightning storm happening, so it's pretty cool.
2 years doing special effects kind of rattles your brain. I just want to get out there now and have a bit of fun again in life and just enjoy myself and start writing the next 3 films. I can't stop myself. Once I do a film, I have to do another one. I have to do another one. And I'm kind of on this mission. I don't know what mission that is, but I just like making movies, and I just keep doing it and keep doing it until I get to the point where I've got all that out of my system, but I've got a long way to go. I'm so happy doing this. Nothing's ever made me happier making films. It's the best thing I could ever do in life. I mean, forget the girls, forget the money, forget the hot sports cars and everything else, and going shopping and buying nice clothes. It's all bullshit, because I make movies, and that's the greatest thing in the world. And I've been doing this for like 17 years. I was the youngest television director in Australia at 21. I'm now 38. I've been directing 17 years, and I wouldn't change a thing.
The one thing that I can say about Neil was that he kept the balance the whole time for me, and I think that says a lot about a director that, is aware of the process of an actor, and considering that I was away from my partner and my son, which was the first time ever, I was battling a lot.
I think Neil Johnson, as a director from this actor's point of view, I would have to say his drive and his focus. If you put it on a level of 1 to 10, give it 50.
For many, many months and years, Neil was basically just his own man, and it was only him and basically his editing suite. And I would have probably given up myself. I have to take my hat off, for the stubbornness and the tenacity that Neil has shown.
And I mean, he went to the extreme of selling his house to get more money. He went to a lot of expense to send an unknown actor to America and put all of his trust in that. And I think he's got vision beyond a lot of us to see what he saw.
So I could have really crumbled many times. I had a lot of stress inflicted upon me by other people, and it would have been easy just to say, oh, fuck this, I'm giving up.
Ultimately, because he has such a passion for what he does and in creating something and really wanting to tell this story, it kept me very enthused, and it kept me believing in the project the whole time.
For me, this is always what I've wanted to do in my life, and I think the number one lesson I've learned is never give up. No matter what people do. I've had people come along, try to rip me off financially. People tell me that I don't have what it takes to be a director or anything else.
people always try and put you down, and that's a very sad thing, especially in this country, because we've always got to be very positive. So no matter what people tell you, just never give up. That's all I can say.
What has been will be again. What has been done will be done again. There is nothing new under the sun.
You know, people think we're faking this. What's that? People would think we're faking it. So now we got the end of the documentary. Did you see the lightning behind me when I was talking? Wow, did you see that one? Yeah, Bolt. Oh yeah.